Resident Evil as a series has some of the best games ever made. From genre-defining games with excellent remakes, to shifting the series while still managing to be great in their own right, to reinventing the series and saving its reputation when things weren't looking so hot. It's truly impressive how many of these games are not only good, but also really important. Resident Evil 0 is not one of these. It's not the worst thing I've ever played, but after playing the fantastic Resident Evil 1 remake somewhat recently, Resident Evil 0's more interesting choices really stuck out by comparison. As I always do, I went for the platinum, which I actually think led to me having more fun than if I had just done a normal playthrough, which I'll explain later. Looking at the trophies, you can loosely split them into three categories: minor tasks, full playthrough ones, and bonus modes. Now for my first playthrough, I didn't focus at all on any of the full playthrough ones, which include beat the game without saving or healing. I figured, I should probably play the game normally once so I have some idea what I'm doing. I did, however, want to try and get all the random small tasks out of the way, things like getting a critical headshot or blowing a zombie's leg off with the shotgun. I'm not going to go through and list all of these, they are really self-explanatory for the most part. Ones that were a bit out of my way were, first, killing the worst enemy in the game with the Molotov. I basically never used the Molotov, so I had a ton stocked up. I'm literally only now just seeing this, reading it again, that I could have used napalm grenades in the grenade launcher, which would have been easier, but that's what I get for not reading properly, I guess. I also made sure to defeat 16 bats in the church. These only spawn partway into the giant bat boss fight, and I had to make sure not to kill the boss before getting this, which was really easy to do. I had to reload a couple of times. I made sure to get a custom handgun. It's so not far out of the way, but it's not mandatory, so I felt the need to mention it. Final out of the way trophy I went for was for mixing all the different herb combinations, so double green, triple green, green red blue, and green blue green. There are very few blue herbs in the game, so I was really worried about missing this one, but I got it, so it's fine. In normal play, I think it's fine that there's so few. There are like 2 hallways and like 5 total enemies that can poison you. You don't need that many really. This run was mainly for learning the game and more importantly, trying to have a fun experience. Keyword being trying. I don't hate this game, but how often you need to backtrack for key items or heals or ammo, basically whichever you choose to leave behind as you don't have nearly enough space, is really annoying. There's no item box, which is the main culprit here. I know it's probably like the game's gimmick, but it sucks. The strat is to just use the lobby to dump items and come get them when you need them, hence the backtracking. It's not figuring out what you need to do that's the problem. It's figuring out immediately what you need to do and then needing to run back to the lobby to get whatever item you need. Or going to get ammo because you don't have enough. And especially screw off with the grappling hook sections. You use it right at the start of the game and then when leaving the facility, likely hours and hours later. That thing takes up 2 slots, no way I'm carrying that around if I don't need it. While inventory management is a pain, I did like the times the game had to use 2 characters to solve puzzles. Wish there were more parts like this, to be honest. I'm not going to go into full detail on this first run though, it was basically just a blind run through. Beating this first run took me just shy of 7 hours in-game time. I was going to need to half that for the S rank though. After beating the main game, it was decision time. Do I do my other runs of the main story, or do I take a look at the Leech Hunter bonus mode? If you sitting at home pick the other runs first, congratulations, you have just made your life way harder than it needs to be. That's because the rewards from Leech Hunter include the Revolver Magnum at the start of the game and infinite ammo for every weapon, including that Revolver Magnum. These make the other runs much easier, but of course you first have to clear Leech Hunter. How this mode works is the game plops you into the facility with 100 leech charms around the map, 50 blue and 50 green. Those charms can only be picked up by one specific character. Billy gets blue and Rebecca gets green. You can only have 10 in a stack, and once you pick them up, they can't be dropped, meaning that at full capacity you would only have 1 open slot, I guess for a handgun. You need to full clear this mode for all the trophies, aka escape with all 100 leech charms as well as defeating every single enemy. So the best strat is absolutely to clear the whole map of enemies first before going to pick up any charms, and in fact you sorta have to. Reason being that once you collect 90 charms, more enemies spawn, and if those enemies spawn in a room that already had enemies in it and you haven't killed those enemies, then those enemies will despawn but do not count as being killed, so you won't get the trophy, and will need to do another run. Now if you're sitting there thinking, wow, that must take a lot of management of ammo and potentially healing as well as the charms, you must have had quite the plan you came up with. No, I used a guide. YouTuber Optinoob has fantastic Resident Evil 0 guides. If you've gone for the platinum, you have likely seen them. Because of this though, I don't have as much to say. His video is 2 hours long, and with the pausing I was doing it took me a lot longer, but it got the job done exceptionally well. Managed to get all the enemies defeated with around 150 handgun bullets to spare. So it's not even a guide that you have to follow exactly to the letter. If you miss some shots, you'll still be completely fine following it. After collecting all the charms and finishing with an A rank, I got my Infinite Magnum reward, and I was ready to move on to the other playthroughs. But there is actually one more thing I need to do in Leech Hunter. The rarest trophy in the game, in fact. That being for beating the mode while collecting only one colour of Leech. I just used a guide by the same guy for all the same reasons. The reason being that they're fantastic. It is easier than the full clear, but it does make sense it being the rarest, seeing as you don't get any rewards for doing this. You literally only do it if you want the trophy. Finally being done with Leech Hunter, it was time to play through the main game a bunch more times. The things I needed to accomplish were beat the game in under 3.5 hours to get an S rank, beat the game without healing, beat the game without saving, and beat Wesker mode to unlock the special outfit which you need for another trophy. I also still needed to beat all the bosses with just Rebecca, as well as find all the files, as I didn't do that in my first run. I had a list of the key items in the order you need to get them, which made it easy to keep track of where I needed to go and in what order. So I won't keep you in suspense. The Infinite Ammo Magnum basically eliminates anything that could be considered a challenge, and because of this, you don't need to carry ammo, you don't need to carry multiple weapons, you don't need to carry heals, which gives you more than enough space to easily go from key item to key item. I had a lot more fun doing this, and it really made me wish that there was an item box to at least reduce the item management crisis in this game. Unfortunately, I ended up getting poisoned by a spider on my first run, and so I decided to use a blue herb, which meant I had failed the no healing trophy. You can't die from poison, but it will drain you so that you're one hit from death. It's totally possible to beat the game without getting hit, but I was just not confident in my ability to do that. I ended up also taking a ton of damage at the giant bat, so this would have been where I had died if I had decided not to heal. I got right to the end of the game, got the final keycard, got sniped by an off-screen frog, which didn't spawn on my first run, so I didn't know how to deal with it, and got eaten for an instant kill on my no-save run. Needless to say, I was mortified. I'd essentially wasted like 2.5 hours. Okay, I did get all the files in this run, but everything else I had done was irrelevant as I didn't finish the run. So I sulked for an hour, had a shower, shouted into a pillow, and got right back to the game. This second run started bad, got hit by the dogs on the train, like the second enemy in the game, but crucially I didn't get poisoned later on. I also actually realised that with the Infinite Magnum, if you just aim up and shoot the bat, it dies in like 4 shots, making my previous struggle quite embarrassing in hindsight. One thing important I did do in this run was A, make sure to load all 3 ammo types into the grenade launcher. These count as separate weapons for the Get All Weapons trophy, and I could not remember if I loaded them all in my main playthrough. And B, I made sure to use the handgun parts on the opposite handgun from my first playthrough, as you need to do both and can only do one per playthrough. Other than that, I managed to get all the way to the end of the game while only taking 2 hits, both on Rebecca, which made me a bit nervous, but with 2 characters spamming magnums, the bosses go down very quick, or just get stun locked. I was able to beat this second attempt with an S rank without healing and without saving at a little over 2 hours in-game time, which just goes to show how worth it is getting the Infinite Magnum from the Leech Hunter. Wesker mode is no different, you still have the infinite weapons. Only thing I had to do was defeat enemies with Wesker's special charged death stare move, but this popped in the facility really early on. After this, it was just the same as the previous playthrough, and beating this unlocked the Team Wesker outfit, which I equipped after loading up Leech Hunter, for 2 more trophies. All I had left was hard mode, and that's actually not true. I had to defeat one of those plant guys with just a knife. These enemies suck, and I really didn't want to do this earlier, so I just started an easy playthrough, speedran the train, and killed the one on the western area of the facility. But then, it was just hard mode. What makes hard mode difficult is first, you can't use any of your bonus weapons. They're only unlocked on the difficulty you got them on. Second, enemies both have more health and deal more damage, and third, there's reduced ammo and healing around the map. All the key items and enemies though are in the same place, and because of that the strategy didn't really need to change. I stockpiled helpful items in the lobby if I found it, and only tried to clear enemies from areas I knew I would be visiting multiple times, such as the hallway connecting the conference room to the library. Otherwise I would just try and skirt by them. I also left Rebecca in the lobby when she wasn't needed. Like seriously, she dies so quickly comparatively, I was not taking that risk. Bosses are the big difference and where I ended up using all my ammo and heals. It was actually a bit distressing just how quick my ammo would deplete against them, but some of them you can get into loops, like the first two. The Bat is always going to be a pain, Proto-Tyrant is surprisingly fine, and the Queen Leech you have a lot of room to run around. The final boss I was able to loop by just standing slightly to the side of him repeatedly. He just kept adjusting trying to face me while Rebecca opened the valves. Was still nerve-wracking though. With that final Hey Queenie though, I had done it. I had platinumed Resident Evil 0. So overall, how do I feel about the game? Mixed. There was so much, oh I left that item in the lobby, whoops. Oh, I need to go get my heals, rats. I'm out of ammo, and of course that stupid grappling hook gun. Don't even remember what it's called, but it's burned into my brain, the image of it. Does it take long to get back? No, it doesn't, but the amount it happens absolutely gets to you. I will admit that on my hard playthrough, I had a much easier time managing, but that is after the first playthrough, plus all those bonus item playthroughs, so I had a better idea of the space I would need for key items and whatnot. I put a lot of stock in my first playthrough experience. I don't think the fact that I got used to it or knew how to work around it on later playthroughs really should hold that much weight when I was so annoyed in my first run. That is the main problem I have with the gameplay though, and it is almost entirely caused by the lack of an item box. The areas are smaller to compensate for this though, and they are less connected. The main lobby is always only a couple rooms away while you're in the facility. The two character specific stuff like puzzles or segments where you need to work together to solve something are nice. I just wish there was more of them, or that they didn't just boil down to sending one item from one place to another. But I do like the idea. I think that's a really good way to sum up this whole game. I love the ideas you've got here, just could work on the execution. If we do get that rumored remake, I'd like them to add proper co-op with another human. They'd have to redesign sections where one character is locked in a room or something, but it is a remake, they can redesign those sections. Mind you, there were like 4 different rumored Resident Evil remakes. I feel like you're hedging your bets at that point. Dino Crisis fans are in shambles right now. It's me, I'm Dino Crisis fans. The story of Resident Evil 0 is just bizarre though. This was probably one of the starting points for Resident Evil getting just a bit more silly. We're not punching boulders yet, but the main villain is like a Final Fantasy reject, and really the whole plot is just sort of whatever. It's not the main reason to play the game, let's go with that. As for the platinum, most of it is pretty manageable. The real tripping up points are if you can beat Leech Hunter for the Infinite Magnum, which is easier with the guide, but I get not everyone wants to use a guide. And then the hard mode, as you can't even rely on those weapons you've used to breeze through the other runs. It's not especially difficult even then though. My in-game time for hard was just over 4 hours, completely guideless. Yes, I had some deaths, but less than you'd probably expect. It was only really like the bats once, and then the Leech Queen like a couple of times. Overall, Resident Evil 0 has some interesting ideas that aren't fully realized, a story that makes very little sense, and a platinum that's not too challenging but still needs you to learn the game. So I think it's a fine game. Still considerably below all the other Resident Evils I've played though. And that's the video. Have you played and or platinumed the game? How'd you find it? Let me know all that and more in the comments, and while you're down there, why not subscribe? It's free, helps me out, and gives you easier access to my videos, both old and new. There's some other Resident Evil videos, as well as some other trophy and achievement videos you might enjoy. I'm writing this video before Requiem comes out, but this video might end up releasing after it. I don't know right now. You do, you know when it's out. I don't. Thank you for watching this video to the end. For now though, I'm off. On them troves. And I'll see you next time.